Hello and welcome to the Alaska Seminar Series. My name is Valerie Stimmick-Bailey and I run the travel blog Valerie and Belize, as well as the YouTube channel of the same name and the Destination Alaska podcast. It is my goal to help you have the most helpful Alaska information possible. And this video series is all about having you visit different parts of Alaska and have relevant information for the coming year. So in this video, I'm going to be chatting with Reba from Haines, and she's going to teach us all about visiting Haines and what you need to know for visiting in 2026 specifically. This video was pre-recorded, so if you have any questions, you're going to want to put those in the comments on YouTube. I did select some questions in advance for my community, and we're going to cover those at the end, so you'll want to stay tuned in case one of your questions is on that list. But if you have any other questions after finishing the video, feel free to put them in the comments. If you're listening to the audio-only version on my podcast feed, the easiest way to get in touch is either by going to YouTube and commenting on the appropriate video, or by connecting with me on social media at Valerie Valise on Instagram or Valerie and Valise on Facebook. I think that covers all my housekeeping, so I'm just going to get right out of the way and let Reba teach us all about Haines. So Reba, the floor is all yours.
Great. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Rebecca Hilton. You can call me Reba. I am here at the Visitor Center, and I am the tourism director for the Hainesboro. And this is where I first fell in love with Alaska. It's an absolutely beautiful place. And when you think of Alaska, this is the destination I think that can click all those boxes for you. We're at the very top of the Inside Passage. So cruise ships do come here, but we're not a big cruise ship stop, but we do get a few cruise ships in. We're connected to the highway system, so we get a lot of RV traffic, which is pretty awesome. We love our RV traffic. They come and go throughout the season. Many people will hit us up on the way into the interior of Alaska, and then also when they're leaving as well. We're part of, if you can look on the map there, we're part of what we call the Golden Circle. So you can come over via Skagway on a ferry, or you can come up from Juneau on a ferry as well, or as far away as from Washington on the ferry, because that's our other highway system besides the road system that takes you all the way in to the interior of Alaska, in Canada, and down into the United States, the lower 48 as we call it. You can also take the marine highway system, the ferry system, all the way up from Bellingham. And if you're coming into Juneau, you can also fly here on Alaska Seaplane. So that's a great way to get here as well. Super, super scenic area. And you're going to see some more slides like that to let you know what we're all about. So this is our beautiful community of Haines. We sit on a peninsula. On the left-hand side there, you'll see a big river system coming down, the Chilkoot River. And on the right-hand side is the fjord, the Lynn Canal. So it's ocean water on both sides of the peninsula, with rivers coming down on both sides as well. And we also have several lakes in the area. So it's a really, really scenic place. We have about 2,500 people that live here year-round. So that's kind of a small community, I guess. For many people, consider that a small community. But it's kind of the perfect size for us. We've got a couple grocery stores here. We've got a great school system with about 250 kids in it. And we have tourism as our main focus of economy. But there's also fishing is a big thing here. You can see our small boat harbor there. We've got quite a few fishermen that live here. So it's really kind of a diverse economy. We don't have all of our eggs in one basket, which really gives you that true sense of Alaska when you get here, which is great. We are all about the fish. We get so many fish here, which is absolutely fantastic. The larger picture there in the slide of the small fish, that is the hooligan fish. We'll talk more about that later because we've got a festival surrounding the hooligan fish. And anytime's a good time to fish here. We're going into our winter months right now, and we like to go ice fishing. We can catch some trout year-round and some Dolly Varden, which is great, but we get really pretty substantial runs of the sockeye salmon, of the chum salmon, of the coho. We get a really big coho run, and we get a derby. And then the ocean is here as well. So we get halibut and crab and shrimp and all the bountiful things from the ocean as well. So it's a really abundant place when it comes to fish. And because we have so many fish, we're known as Valley of the Eagles, because the eagles, they are a beautiful, majestic bird, but they're also kind of lazy and they're scavengers. So they get easy pickings with all of the salmon that we get here. So we're known as the Valley of the Eagles because we have more bald eagles per capita than anywhere else in the country, in North America. And so we have about 400 resident pairs that live here in the valley year round. But this time of the year, November, we get an influx of thousands and thousands of bald eagles that come and feed on a late run of chum salmon. And that's another reason why we're called Valley of the Eagle. There's more bald eagles here this time of the year and that congregate here than any other place on the planet. And so it's a pretty special place. If you like bald eagles, this definitely should be on your bucket list of places to visit. The Chilkat and Chilkoot sides of our peninsula here. You can see it from the air. Then we have the mighty Chilkat River coming up there on the left-hand side. So all 5 Pacific salmon run up that river at one time or another. We've got the kings, which aren't very plentiful in this area anymore, but we still get them. And those really typically will be our first runs. We have winter kings, which we can get here year round. And then we still, right now, all the way up until this time of the year, we've got the chum salmon. So it's a very, very bountiful place and a beautiful river system. And the highway and the airport are over on that river system on the top of the screen. So it's a beautiful drive back down into this valley. And you can see we're surrounded by mountains. And Glacier Bay National Park is just on the other side of those mountains on the top left-hand side of the screen. And on the bottom side, we have the Chilkoot side coming into this side, the inlet over here. So we'll go to the next screen and we'll talk about the Chilkoot a little bit more. So this is the big inlet, and this is the end. We're on a peninsula, and this is kind of like the end of one of our inlets. And in the far distance there, you can see the lake. That is the Chilkoot Lake and then the Chilkoot Inlet. So a lot of ocean-going mammals will come up. We can see a lot of sea lions there, and we can see a lot of whales in this really pretty small area. So they're feeding on the fish that go up into the lake. And so we'll get all of these animals pushing up into this small little inlet, which is really quite phenomenal to be able to see all the wildlife so close to the road, because the road follows the inlet and goes up to the lake. And then there's even an ATV tour here, the Talk Chinook tour, which is a wonderful experience where you get to drive these like 4-wheel type vehicles that go up to the mountaintop. And there's a lodge up there where they feed you a wonderful meal. And you've got these great views as well. So a great excursion that you can take is the Talk Chinook experience there. The lake itself, Chilkoot Lake, is an amazing place. It's at a state park, so there's a state park there and a boat ramp, but that's the only sign of man you'll see. The rest of the entire lake, and it's about 3 miles long, is just that. It's surrounded by complete wilderness. So it's a wonderful place to go out and kayak. I like to paddleboard out there. People bring their small motor boats and zip all the way across to the other side. There's a couple of beaches you can go to, and there's some wonderful spawning areas for the sockeye salmon. So it's an incredible place to visit. And if you're coming to Haines, I highly recommend a trip out to Chilkoot Lake. And there are excursions there that you can purchase, not at the lake itself, but in town, that will take you into these nooks and crannies that us locals like to consider our backyard. And we have time off. This is where one of the places we're going to go and hang out is at Chilkoot Lake. And here you can see the river system coming out of the lake itself. Bald eagles there. You can see the gentleman with the bald eagle right in front of him on his kayak. They're there because they're the sockeye salmon you can see on the left. So that's a picture that I took from my paddleboard into the water right below you. Like, it's a really magical, special place. And the canoe trips that you can buy and purchase and take out there, they're these very long canoes where they'll hold up to 10 people and you can paddle, but they also have little motor assists. So they'll zip you to these special places on the lake, depending on what animals are where, to get you around. And it's just a wonderful experience. And then that little river I talked about, the Chilkoot River, it is a incredible destination for watching bears. And the bears are there because there's a lot of fish. And from that last aerial view, you saw that the river is quite small. It's about a mile in length and it's not that wide. And so the salmon are pushed into this very small area and they come in these big waves. And so it's a very easy place for the bears and the eagles to catch salmon. And so also our local fishermen like to catch salmon as well. So it's a great place to fish. A really fun place to hang out is Chilkoot River. And because of that, the wildlife photography is absolutely amazing. This is another shot that I took with just my phone on the paddleboard of a bald eagle eating a sockeye salmon. I mean, where else can you do this? It's a pretty magical experience to be able to get this close to wildlife. The bear photography, though, is really where is really special. You have to come into the visitor center and get a safety talk first, but it's a very wild place, but the wildlife photography really is outstanding. Here you can see one of the iconic pictures that I was talking about. I mean, you can get these shots. I mean, I was out there this weekend and there's a little bit of snow patchy around and it's not quite as green this time of the year, but the wildlife watching is absolutely incredible and these kind of shots can be had here, which is pretty incredible, very special. On the other side, we have another park, the Chilkat State Park. So this is on the lower end of our peninsula where the Chilkat River comes out. You can see there we got a hanging glacier that's right across from the park itself. That is Rainbow Glacier, and there's also Davidson Glacier that you can spot from Chilkat State Park. It is a wonderful place to camp. So the state park has got like pit toilets. There's no like facilities other than that. But it's a start of a wonderful trail system, and the scenery is amazing. We've got bears and eagles everywhere in this valley. There's a couple of active bald eagles nest in this area. And of course, you can go fishing in the ocean there. So, an absolutely very special place to go is Chilkat State Park, especially if you kind of want to get away from the crowds of Chilkoot. Chilkoot can get a little bit busy. Chilkat is very peaceful and quiet and a wonderful escape. Here you can see someone just camping out on the spit there. It's just a beautiful scenery, and it doesn't get much more special than this. Camping right across the glacier. You can build a fire, sit there and listen for whales or see sea lions. You'll see otters that will come up and feed. It's a very, very magical space. Further on up on that Chilkat side is the Haines Highway, which comes all the way. You can go, like I said before, all the way from the lower 48 up into Canada and the Yukon. The closest community we have on the highway is Haines Junction, which is about 150 miles up the highway. And it's a brand new highway, so it's great for bike riding. Take your e-bikes out, plenty of shoulder there, and it's a really easy to bring your big motor homes down this highway. And it is not very well traveled at all compared to like a freeway down south or anything like that. There's barely any traffic. So it's a really great experience and lots of wildlife on the highway as well. This is the mighty Chilkat River, and the mountains are surrounding it. Is absolutely incredible. The river itself it's a glacier river, so it's very spread out, and the channels kind of like switch back and forth all the time. And so there's a lot of sandbars, and the eagles will be feasting in these areas because the salmon will be heading up the rivers and they get kind of stuck on these sandbars, or they look like torpedoes, and there's water like spraying off their backs, and it's really easy for eagles and bears and wolves to fish for salmon in these areas. So that's a really good indication of the shallowness and how much wildlife we have because of this amazing river system. And it's a very beautiful place. So further up, what I highly recommend that people do is take any kind of trip on the water. These excursions, you can do it yourself and shuttle your own vehicles because it's right off the highway here. But you can take a guided tour. You can do a float tour in a raft, like you see pictured there. You can do a jet boat tour where they actually go up the river. The wildlife viewing is absolutely incredible. If you don't see an animal, you'll see signs of the animals. You'll see the bear prints or the wolf prints in the silt and sandbars. But you'll pass by several bald eagles' nests, and then so you will see eagles in this area. And it's just incredibly scenic. and getting out on the water where you're away from the things of man. It comes and goes close to the road, but then it also goes to the other side of the river. So you definitely get that remote feeling. And then the fishing is always good on the Chilkat River. The really special thing about the Chilkat River is the Chilkat Bald Eagle Preserve itself. So because we get all of these salmon here in this one particular area, this is where the village of Klukwan is, a native village, the eternal village of Klukwan for the Tlingit people. And it's sitting where the Chilkat River also meets the Surku River and the Klahini River. So I talked about how all 5 Pacific salmon come into this river system, and they come right in front of the village of Klukwan before they go off on one of these different river systems. So this native village has always been very bountiful in the salmon runs and their food collection. So it's easy for them to collect food for the year. So because of that, they've been able to concentrate throughout the centuries on their art, which is absolutely amazing. So getting into the Chilkat Bald Eagle Preserve is pretty special because of the villages there, but also because the river just thins and spreads out even more, which makes it so much easier for the eagles to feast on the salmon and the other wildlife too. So a very, very special place. And here you can see this is a typical picture of bald eagles that we're seeing in November and December and into January. It's not uncommon to see 6 bald eagles sitting in one tree. We have a couple thousand that are here right now feasting on these salmon. And so this Chilkat Bald Eagle Preserve is 48,000 acres, basically just spread out where the river is to protect the bald eagle habitat. And here is the Chilkat Kwan Heritage Center. It's a museum that's located in the village of Klukwan that you may go to. It is a very special place. They don't allow photography inside the building, but they have a world-class collection. The museum itself is like, when you walk into it, it feels like you could be in New York City, or you could be in any large community where they've got fantastic museums, because their collection is outstanding. And what is even more special, that it's right there in the village itself, and you get to stand on the banks of the river where the other 2 rivers come into play, and you can feel how powerful that is. So if you're coming to Haines, I highly recommend going to the Chilkat Kwan Heritage Center. We also have several other museums in town. We have got the American Bald Eagle Foundation, which is really wonderful if you're into bald eagles and any of the animals in this area. They've got a diorama room that has every single animal in Southeast Alaska in it. Pretty good place to get selfies, or if you want to educate your children. And they currently have 3 bald eagles there and 2 different owls, and I think they've got a falcon as well. So it's a great place to actually see live birds there. So it's a wonderful place. I highly recommend that as well. We have the Haines Sheldon Museum, which focuses more on the human settlement from the Tlingit history up into today, actually. The museum it's always recreating itself, and it has new displays to check out. So I love going to the Sheldon Museum because you never know what you're going to find there. And then I know is one of your favorite places, Val, is the Hammer Museum. It's a one-of-a-kind museum that is centered around the history of the hammer. So that is a really special, unique, quirky place. If you ever get to meet the owner, which he is there often, he has this passion for hammers that translates into a really good tour, because I mean, anytime anyone's very passionate about what they're doing, I think it lets you see what they see in the facility itself, and in the life and the history of the hammer. So the Hammer Museum should be on your bucket list there if you're coming to Alaska to visit the Hammer Museum. We also pride ourselves on our craft beverages here. We have a meadery, which has, boy, man, they've got probably like close to 20 different beverages that they brew themselves. So you got to check that place out. That's called the Three Northmen. Peanuts on the table that are complimentary for everyone, and you throw the shells on the floor. It's got a really good feel, a really good vibe right on Main Street. Also on Main Street, we have the Haines Brewery, which is known for its spruce tip beer and a couple other beers they do really, really well. But you got to go in and talk, and the owner and the brewer himself is usually the one behind the bar. And if you want to meet the locals, that's a really good place to go, is just to head on into the brewery. And then we also have a distillery. They do everything from an agave now to rum and gin and vodka and whiskey. And they also, just like the other places, they harvest a lot of the ingredients for the beverages themselves. Like I mentioned, the spruce tip for the brewery, the same goes for the distillery here. A lot of handcrafted items go in, and locally harvested items go into the beverages. Quite impressive facilities, all three of them. The food scene, we're known for our fish and chips here. We got a couple of good restaurants that have them, and we also have got some food trucks in the summer months. So you definitely want to put fish and chips on your list of things to eat here. So yeah, try food scene is always changing. We have a few new restaurants that came on board this last year. We didn't lose any, so everything that's been here has been here. But we've got one that's down on the waterfront. That's called Taste of Shoe. Highly recommend that place. It's on the waterfront right by the cruise ship pier, and it's got some incredible food and really great views. And then we have another newer one. It used to be called the Fireweed. It's up in the Fort area, and now it's called Deer Heart, focusing on local harvested food as well. So the menu is often changing. You can find it online though, and it's a really quality food. So you got to check out our food scene. We have some amazing hikes. We've got several that are just along the ocean side that aren't you don't have to commit a lot of time. You don't have to commit a lot of energy. And then we have the other hikes, like this one, Mount Rapinski, that will take you up over 4,200 feet with incredible views. So we've got all different types of hikes here for whatever it is you're into. If you come by the visitor center, we've got a wonderful map here, and we'll tell you what our favorite hike is and what you're looking for. We'll help you find which hike fits your needs. But you got to go hiking here because we are, like I said, a peninsula, and the views here are absolutely amazing, no matter which way you go. We are also very conveniently located at the tip of the peninsula here, and the tip of the inside passage, very top. So it's really easy to do a day trip over to Skagway. We have the Alaska Marine Highway that runs year round. And during the summer months, we've got a couple of different options to go back and forth on a smaller boat on what we call fast ferries. So we have the Haines Skagway Fast Ferry that's running about every other hour at the peak of the season. And then we have another one called the Fiordlands, which will take you all the way down to Juneau. So that's a really good place to go because they do some whale watching along the way. Then, of course, you can also go up into the Yukon just on the highway there. So really great place to, if you're in an RV, you can park your RV and take any of these trips down to Juneau or over to Skagway. And I want to talk about Skagway a little bit here just because I used to live there and I love it. And it's a really fun experience just to, if you want to go over there for the day. I, in a very loving way, I refer to it as Disneyland of the North, but it has some great restaurants, bars, excursions, whatever you want to do. It's just a fun, very vibrant place. It gets a little crazy because they get up to 4 large cruise ships a day, so anywhere from 12 to 15,000 people. So it's a really fun place to visit. And then you can just hop back on that boat and get right back over to Haines in your RV and get back into the wild of Alaska. And it's just a 45-minute boat ride away. So it's not very far at all. But you can't drive there unless you want to go around the full, what I referred to earlier, the Golden Circle. And that is 365 miles to drive to Skagway, which is only 17 miles across via the water and a boat. And here's the Fiordlands. This is a great option to get you over to Skagway for the day. or to get you down to Juneau. And they do whale watching along the way. They do this route every day so they know where to find the wildlife. They feed you, you'll get to Juneau, and they will give you a bus ride and shuttle you wherever it is you need to go, typically downtown. Most people like to go to downtown. You spend 4 hours there. The bus will bring you back to the boat, and then you get to do the scenic route all the way back up to Haines. So that's a really good day excursion for you to take. And I highly recommend it because it's really nice to get out on the ocean here. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Glacier Bay National Park, our mountain ranges and our glaciers that feed down into our valley, we share them with Glacier Bay National Park. You can access the park easily from Juneau if you wanted to boat in that way. It's landlocked, so you can't drive there. But since we do share a mountain range, we have a couple of small commuter planes that will take you over into Glacier Bay National Park. And it's an incredible flight scenic to do. So if you ever get the chance and you want to splurge a little bit on a activity and an excursion, I highly recommend doing a flight scenic over Glacier Bay National Park. It's absolutely beautiful and it will change your outlook on humanity and how we are we call it speckism once you get up into the air and you really get that sense of how small of a footprint that humans have on this area in Alaska because it is vast wilderness, mountain ranges, oceans, glaciers, ice fields, lakes. You can see goats and bears on the sides of the mountains sometimes. And it's an absolutely incredible experience that will stay with you the rest of your life. We have a lot of events. I highly recommend making your trip, planning your trip around an event. If that's something, if there's anything on here that interests you. In February, we've got a fun winter fest, which is everything from tossing frozen fish to each other to cross country skiing. And then out the Alcan 200, a part of that is a snowmobile race that you go all the way up. You start here at Haines and you go all the way up into the mountains of Canada and back, 200 miles. It's crazy fast on the roads that they do. We've got the Free Ride World Tour. We're known as the adventure capital of Alaska for a reason because we do have incredible heli skiing and we're going to have what's called the Free Ride World Tour. It's the only stop in North America, but it's a really amazing ski snowboard event where they are just freestyling it down, and that's how they get judged for how incredible their runs are. And it's different every time because they're going off the side of a mountain. So that's going to be pretty special. That's happening in March. And then you'll see the rest of the other events that we have here, some really big ones. The triathlon, it's absolutely incredible. I highly recommend if you're into triathlons or want to challenge yourself a little bit. It's a great wilderness experience for this triathlon. And all these events you can find on our Visit Haines website to check out. But as you can see, we got a nice Independence Day celebration. We get the Southeast Alaska State Fair here, which is a lot of fun. The Silver Salmon Derby, the Bald Eagle Festival is a big one, and then a couple little ones there that kind of fill out the time and the space. But it's a wonderful experience here to come to an event because then there's always something to do and it's filled with wonderful people and just locals doing their thing and sharing the valley with you. The Chilkat Bald Eagle Festival is probably our most popular festival in regards to it's been happening forever. And there's not just the natural aspect, there's a cultural aspect of it as well. And biologists will come and do wonderful presentations. And plus, you get to see spectacular wildlife. We're full of snow today, and I'm hoping to get up into the preserve this afternoon. The snow's a little late to arrive here, so it's going to just change the viewing habits of what we're seeing out there and how the animals are feeding. And we've had these bears that have been hanging around still, and so the wildlife photography is top notch here, and it's pretty much all centered around the Chilkat Bald Eagle Festival, which is so much fun. And other activities in winter, we've got a sledding hill that is absolutely amazing. This is only part of it. You can see in the picture on the right, and it's lit up at night. So it's pretty epic sledding hill. You can go up into the mountains and right off the highway, you can just put on your skins and your skis and go out in the back country on snowmobiles at all. And you can walk the riverbanks. It's just a beautiful, scenic winter wonderland place to visit. And we'll get a northern lights too, but we have to have good, clear skies for that. But we've already had incredible northern lights this year. Heli skiing, it's the world-class destination. We're limited on our operators here, so you want to make your reservations, but like they are top notch. And this Powder magazine named us one of the top destinations in the world heli skiing. And that's for a reason. These mountains you just can't compare them to anything else, even in Alaska. So highly recommend if you're into these extreme sports to give Haines a try for heli skiing. And a new festival that we're starting this spring, which I am super excited about because spring it's when everything comes awake. The skies it's getting lighter, significantly lighter. The green's coming back to the mountains. We get a lot of blue skies, but we get those hooligan fish that I mentioned in the very beginning. They're these small fish. They're, about 6 inches long. They're like a herring. And they come and they make the waters around here black. But what's really cool is it just lights up the skies as well. And we get all of these migrating birds, hundreds of thousands of birds passing through this area. And it also brings the sea lions and the whales. They're all here to feast on the hooligan. And it's the first subsistence is a big part of our life here in the Haines Valley. And the hooligan is something that we all subsistence fish for, whether you're using it for fertilizer in your garden. If you're collecting, you can collect it and give it to the Bald Eagle Foundation. They feed the eagles with it year round. And a lot of people here, the Clinkets especially, like to make hooligan oil out of this fish. So we're going to be celebrating that in the spring. It'll be centered around the first weekend of May. But anytime late April, first couple weeks of May, you'll see the remnants of the hooligan run and what that means for this area. And it's a really special time to visit is the spring. And if you'd like to find out anything else about our community or like to look at the dates of those, just check out our website at visithaines.com. We also have some wonderful content, some beautiful Alaska content of just what life is like here. Every once in a while, I'll put reminders up of what summer looks like, but really I try and I do the posting myself. So I try and do like what life is like here now in November. Or, whenever it is you're watching this, it'll be real-time footage, not something from last year or the year before. We have a really great social media, so I highly recommend if you're into Alaska, just following one of our platforms there, and you'll see why this valley is so special.
Yes, amazing. I agree. It is special. I have visited, not in a few years. I'm overdue for a return visit, but thank you. That was wonderful. Okay, let's move back to the two of us. That was awesome. I remember this from last year because you showed some of these photos last year. The views over the Chilkat, those mountain views. I think I told you this. The time I've driven the Haines Highway in the last few years, it was pouring rain and totally socked in. And I cannot believe that's the view. I'm still like, I got to get back over there and drive up the Haines Highway to see the kind of the doorstep of Glacier Bay National Park that's right there.
Yeah, we're tied to Wrangell St. Elias too, so everything in that area is protected and there's very little sign of man. And we get RVers coming down here that are they come into here and they're like, wow, we had no idea. They're like, that was the most prettiest drive they'd ever been to anywhere. And people have been all over. So it's always great to get that feedback. But we're impressed with it. Like my love and appreciation for it is completely sincere. It is beautiful. And it's unfortunate you haven't been able to see that.
I know.
But
Just have to come
next
back.
time, hopefully
Yep.
next time.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so as I mentioned at the top, if you have any questions, please just put them in the comments on the video, or if you're listening, you can find me on Instagram at Valerie Valise or Haines at Haines.Alaska and reach out. That's a great way to send your questions if you're not going to hop over to YouTube. But we do have some questions that were submitted in advance, so I want to make sure we get to those. And actually, it's funny we're talking about vehicles and the Haines Highway because I got a question from Audrey. Excuse me. I got a question from Audrey, and she asks, how long to plan for visiting the Chilkat Kwan Cultural Center and how to get there if you don't have a vehicle?
Well, the drive itself up is super scenic. So if you do have a vehicle, I would plan for an hour drive, although it really doesn't take that much, but I would want to stop. There's often trumpeter swans or bald eagles on the way. So I would plan for an hour there and an hour back, and at least an hour when you're in the Chilkat Kwan Heritage Center itself. And we do have a couple of shuttles now that will take you up into the preserve until to Chilkat Kwan. So, and an Uber. So you can just go to our website. We always keep current business listings there, or just give us a call and we can give you those numbers directly. And then you could choose. We can't say this is our preferred vendor, but we have a few different vendors. And so there is public transportation in that regard available to go up.
Nice. I love that you have an Uber.
Yeah.
That's a very entrepreneurial resident who's decided to run the Uber in town.
Yeah, sometimes there's two, but he works on the ferry system, so it's like a
Gotcha.
week on, a week off
Yep.
sometimes.
Makes sense. And I will say when I visited Haines, it was to start a tour that it was a point to point tour. So I took the ferry, I flew to Juneau, took the ferry into Haines, and then there are shuttle services. Like it's pretty easy to find that information online. Usually you call them, make a reservation, and then they're usually, in the case of the ferry at least, they're picking up lots of people. So you're kind of jumping into a van with a bunch of other folks who are going the same place. I can imagine if you're going to the Chilkat Kwan, you would call, they would either work with you if you've got other people who are also going, or just do like a private drive if that's what you book with them.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Here's one. What are some, I know you mentioned one of the museums, and so, I think it was the Bald Eagle Foundation. What are some other good family-friendly activities to do in Haines?
Well, we've got wonderful beaches, so we highly recommend walking the beaches. There's some right in town where the cruise ship is. There's also the Mud Bay area, which is kind of where the Chilkat River is meeting the inlet. That's a wonderful beach. I walk that every day with my dog, and we often see families down there. We've got Chilkoot Park, which is right in town. It's a wonderful park, plenty for kids to do there. Highly recommend that. We've got tide pooling that they could do. And yeah, it's just a really family friendly environment. One of my favorite things to do with my son when he was growing up, he kind of does it on his own now because he's, 13, but we'd go fishing just right off the pier. And he'd always catch fish, and they're not usually something you don't catch, sometimes they're just Dolly Vardens, that kind of thing. And every once in a while, like the salmon will come into the harbor itself, but you can just go down with a $20 pole and catch fish, and the kids just love it. And there are life jackets there that are made available for you, so you don't have to bring everything. But yeah, it's a great place just to fish with the kids as well.
Nice. And I did learn in one of the other videos that the Department of Fish and Game now has an online application for a fishing license. So you can literally just pull out your phone if you decide you want to do that and get your appropriate license, whatever you might need, so that you're fishing legally, because somehow Fish and Game always finds out. So it's better just to get the license if you want to go fishing.
Yeah, that's correct. And you have to check the rules itself, but I believe under 18, you don't need a license.
Okay. So if you just stand there, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, you just give tips, but you don't actually catch any fish. That's how it can work. Okay, so here's a good one. I think this is an interesting question, because I think what Sue is asking about is if you were to enter Haines, like let's say via the ferry, and maybe you came with your vehicle and you're going to drive up into the Yukon. Are there any banks where you can do currency exchange, or would you just wait until you get to Whitehorse? I think I've had this question before.
You can. We've got a credit union here, and I don't know if they can do that for you or not, but I do know there's one bank here, First National Bank of Alaska, and they do that for you as well. The currency is always changing right now. The dollar is in our favor. And up in Canada, they always take American money as well. So and you could get it exchanged up there too. And of course, you put your card into an ATM up there, and you're going to get Canadian money. So
Yeah.
it's really easy to navigate. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I think I looked the last time I had this question, somebody else was asking a couple of years ago, and there is maybe an ATM in Haines Junction, Sue. So if you're watching this replay and you are thinking, oh, I'll just wait till I get to Haines Junction, I was not able to verify that there is physically any bank of any kind in Haines Junction. That may have changed since the last time I looked, but it's best, I would say, if you want to make sure you have some cash for Canada, to get it while you're in Haines, and then you won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and I would recommend it too, just because of campgrounds there, because you're putting, if you want the correct exchange rate, it is better to go ahead and go to the bank and have a few dollars in your Canadian dollars in your pocket when you head up in there. It'll just
Yeah.
save you a few dollars because of the exchange rate is so good.
And the ATM fees and all the other things they catch us with.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one more question. I think this is a great way to end, because I do know that increasingly, I don't know increasingly, maybe that's not the right word, and you can correct me. There are cruise ships which make port in Haines, and they may either anchor out or anchor at the dock, if depending on the size of the ship. Most of them, I feel like, encourage you to kind of just hop right on the fast ferry and go to Skagway. But for the intrepid explorer who wants to stay in Haines, what can you do if you just have a day in port? What would you recommend?
Well, I do recommend, if you're coming on a cruise ship, and I recommend excursions, because they're the best way to get out and do what interests you, right? Because they're going to have a lot to choose from. My particular favorites have to deal with the water. And like I said, that would be rafting through the Bald Eagle Preserve, or doing a canoe or kayak on Chilkoot Lake. And because we don't get that many ships, those excursions typically will sell out. So, like, sign up on the ship, just do it, or you can go to our website and we list all the operators there, and you can sign up beforehand independently as well. But we're not like a big port, so you can't just walk across the street when you get off the ship and sign up for a tour. We're not that kind of town. Um, but a really fun thing to do if you don't have anything scheduled and planned is to get e-bikes. There are 3 rental places in town that you can get e-bikes from, and then you can go see all those areas that I talked about. Going up the highway to Chilkat might be a little too much, but you can get out to Chilkat or Chilkoot State Park on an e-bike. You can go downtown, check out museums, have some lunch, find a park. I mean, it's a beautiful community here, and getting on an e-bike, it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I will just say, if you're watching this video, you might have just noticed a bubble popped up in the upper corner that is linking to the Visit Haines website for that resource, so you can see all of them listed. The other thing I would say is that it's important to note that even if you are not visiting on a cruise ship, some of the cruise ships that go to Skagway do offer excursions in Haines also, and transfer their passengers over. So it's best if you're visiting during the peak summer months. If you have something you really want to do, and maybe you only have a couple days you're going to be in Haines, book it in advance. That's good advice for Alaska in general, but even Haines, because there is such limited availability. Even if there isn't a ship in Haines, there's almost always 4 ships in Skagway, and some of those people do come over too.
Yeah, absolutely. All those tours in Skagway wanting for people to see wildlife, they're bringing their people over to Haines to see the wildlife. So yeah, book your excursions out ahead of time, and it really is worth it. These guides know what they're doing. They can take you to their spots. We love sharing with our visitors. So yeah, book ahead of time, please. And if you don't want to do an excursion, you want to travel on your own, and you're not into e-bikes, rent a car. We've got several here that you can rent. But I highly recommend that. I mean, you can walk and just do downtown or do a hike. That's no problem. But getting a car is really nice, because then you can go see all these places, including the Chilkat Heritage Preserve, Heritage Center. And it's just really nice to get out and feel that freedom. We've got freshwater springs, and there's just so much here.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, I think that's all I have for today. As one more reminder, if you're watching and you still have a burning question about Haines, put it in the comments on YouTube. Beneath this video, you can also find in the show description the link to the Visit Haines website, their social media, some articles that I have after my visit to Haines. Because I've actually been to Haines twice. I went twice in 2 years, but it's been a couple of years, so I'm due to come back. And that migration celebration sounds really fun. So we'll have to see what my schedule looks like for 2026. And yeah, I think that is all for me for now. I just have to say one more time, Reba, thank you so much for joining us and teaching us all about Haines.
Thank you so much. Visit anytime.